What's up, everybody? Oh, no, we don't want that. We want this. Oh. All right, is it time yet? Cool, it's go time. So, as you guys are coming in here, make sure you guys are muted. I know sometimes there's an issue, but what's going on, everybody? I'm Ace. Some of you guys know me as NoTimeZone on all my social media and stuff like that. And today we're going to be covering real estate. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to pretty much start from the very beginning, right? So before I was going to break it up in different sections and talk about different parts of real estate, but what I want to do is start from the very, very beginning, right? The things to get you thinking before you go out and start looking for homes and things like that. So a lot of people were asking me what type of real estate was I going to talk about? Was I going to talk about, doing Airbnb rentals? Was I going to talk about mobile home rentals? Was I going to talk about the BRRRR method or all these different methods? So I'm not going to talk about any specific method, right? So we're just going to start with the very basics and talk about why you should even want to get into investing in real estate, right? So I put together a few slides that we're going to go over. And then once we get done, we're going to have a Q&A. And then we'll pretty much go from there. So pretty much hold your questions. If I go through these slides and you see somewhere that you want to know a little bit more about, or if you want me to get a little more in depth with that, then we could talk about it at the end. So try not to ask questions that aren't covered in the slide. And I only say that because one, I don't want to get ahead and I don't want to start confusing people on other things, right? So I'm trying to take it slow with you guys. So I'm going to be in here once a week and we're going to slowly grow, right? So if you can't watch this fully all the way through, or if you need to come back to it, it's going to be in the cloud. So you'll be able to go back and watch it. And every week when I come on, I'm going to start where I finished off last time. And just to give you guys a little bit of background about me as to why I'm a person that's talking about real estate. I have a decent real estate portfolio in multiple states. I've been investing in real estate for a pretty long time now. I've used different methods when it comes to real estate. I've used FHA, I've used VA, I've done conventional. And we'll get into, for those of you that don't know these terminologies I'm talking about, you don't really have to worry about it because we're going to get into it over time, right? So like I said, the whole goal of this is to start as if you have no idea about real estate. So some of you may already know a little bit about real estate and some of you might not know anything at all about it. So let's dive right in. All right, let me move this over so I can see it. All right, there are many benefits when it comes to real estate, right? Let me see, I don't know if this is blocking it. Hold on one second. There we go. All right, this is much better. I couldn't see. All right. Trying to move this. I think it's covering up some stuff. All right, I don't need to see that. All right, anyways, there are many benefits when it comes to real estate, right? You have many things to look forward to. You got cash flow, great returns. You got different tax advantages. Having your portfolio diversified, right? So some of you may be in stock market. Some of you may have different side hustles, different things like that. So it's just good to have your portfolio diversified. And then you can leverage real estate as well to build wealth. You always hear people talking about leverage real estate. So I'm going to kind of cover a little bit of that. There's going to be a few things I'm going to cover today. We'll get into it. But, have you been thinking about real estate? A lot of people think about real estate, but they don't know where to start, right? Some people aren't people. They don't like to interact with people, right? They're not a people person. So a lot of people just don't want to get out there. They don't want to go to maybe a real estate class. They don't really feel like reaching out to a real estate agent, whatever it may be. So I can kind of get that. So a lot of people have thought about real estate, but they just don't know where to begin, right? So that's the whole point of this. We're gonna get you guys good to go. So we're gonna do this. So I'm gonna be on here every week talking about real estate, and like I said, I'm always gonna pick up where I left off at, and make sure my volume is up. I'm gonna always pick up where I left off at, and I would say by about week 7 or week 8 after this, you should have enough information and you should feel comfortable enough to where you can get out and start doing this. Right? It's a slow process. It's a scary process, and there's a lot of money that's involved. So my goal is to make sure that I'm giving you guys right and correct information and good information at that, because I want you guys to start your real estate journey off to a good start, right? Before I got into real estate, all the blogs, all the threads and everything that I was reading, it was all negative. It was all nothing but a whole bunch of negativity. It was people saying horror stories, people saying don't get into real estate because it didn't work for them. I never seen anything that was really positive. I never seen people that were saying, yeah, you can do it. You know, this is how I did it. These are the bad experiences I had. So just like everything, there's going to be the good with the bad with real estate. But if you go into it with this type of approach and everything that I'm going to cover, you're going to set yourself up a lot better than someone who just dives into it and is like, okay, I'll just see how it goes once I start doing it. Some things are good like that, and sometimes it might work out, but for some people, it might not work out that way. So cash flow. This is a big thing that people always talk about when it comes to real estate. And a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of real estate terminology, and, you know, you'll just learn this stuff kind of as you get more, as you learn more, as you read more books, as you know, deal with more real estate agents, and you start looking at properties and things like that. You're going to start to understand some of these terminologies. So I'm going to try to break things down as simplest as I can. So cash flow is the difference between your property's income and expenses, and that's including any debts that you have, like if you have a mortgage or anything like that, or all your expenses could be a wide variety of things. Maybe you pay maintenance. Maybe you have like landscapers that come and do your yard. If you have, you know, like a little small apartment building, or whether if it's your home or things like that, you have taxes, you have utilities, you have just regular maintenance, you have all these different things, right? And so I'm going to break them down later, but that's what your cash flow is. And so passive income, this is something that it's a word that people always pass around a lot. And there is a way for you to get passive income when it comes to real estate. So passive income is a strategy through which an investor can create earnings without having to be actively involved. That actively involved part is very, very crucial. And we'll get into that part in another slide when we start talking more about passive income. And then a lot of people always hear the tax advantages that you have, right? You know, you got deductions, you have depreciation, you have all capital gains, you have all these different things you can deduct on your taxes when you make certain upgrades to your property. That could be a tax deduction. You know, if you have a property manager, that could be a tax deduction. Every state, every city, every county is different. So it's always good when it comes to your taxes. If you're not already a CPA or a tax person, you don't really know how to handle real estate taxes, I highly recommend you get a CPA. One, it's not going to cost you a lot to get a CPA. A good CPA will probably run you about anywhere from $400 to $800, and you deal with them only around tax time. I mean, if you guys have a good relationship, you could deal with them throughout the year. But that's, like I said, I'm getting too far ahead of myself. So that's something else. And like I said, diversification, always good to have a diversified portfolio. And leverage allows you to make money in real estate using other people's money, which we'll dive into. All right. Let's get on here. There we go. Boom. All right, cash flow. So cash flow is the net income from a real estate investment after your mortgage payments and operating expenses have been made. A key benefit of real estate investing is the ability to generate cash flow. In many cases, cash flow only strengthens over time as you pay down your mortgage and build up your equity, right? So think of it like this. So if you live in your house and you're constantly paying down your mortgage, that means that your equity is building up in your property, right? Because you're paying down the mortgage that you have on it, what you owe, and then you're building up that equity over time. So, you know, you start out right here, you know, this might be your mortgage and this might be your equity. And as you start paying down that mortgage, the equity just slowly keeps the rise. And that's eventually how you leverage, but we'll get into that. So cash flow equals your rent minus your expenses minus your mortgage payments. So an example would be, let's say you have a property, right? It could be a single family home. It could be your home that you live in. It could be a home that you rent out. It could be a duplex, a triplex, whatever you have, whatever type of property you have. Let's just say in total, it collects either $1,200 in rent or you pay $1,200 in rent, right? Subtract your expenses. So let's say, we're using this as an example. All your expenses come out to $200 a month. So that's your maintenance, maybe you have a property manager, maybe you pay utilities, whoever, those are different type of expenses that you have. They all come out to $200, and your mortgage payment comes out to $750. So when you add all that up, it comes out to $250 monthly. And this is before taxes, right? Taxes, don't forget about those taxes, but we'll talk about taxes later. So that's $3,000 a year for being a good real estate investor. That would be considered passive income, right? But we'll get into that into the next slide, because just because you get into real estate, don't think that you're going to always have passive income, right? You might not get that passive income until maybe year 2, maybe year 5, and we'll kind of break down what that is and what that entails of. So here are some ways to increase your cash flow every single month. You can increase your rents over time. So maybe you might do some upgrades, or maybe in your area it's improving, right? What's going on in your area? Are they building like a new strip mall, a shopping center? Are they putting up new gyms? Are they putting up new things? Are they redoing like maybe the park? Are they giving it upgrades? So you can drive around your area and kind of get a good idea if they're trying to upgrade the area, right? Were you in an area where maybe the school system was pretty bad, and so they're putting a lot of funding into the schooling and things like that? These are the things that you need to start thinking about and being aware of, right? So you know your area really well, especially if you've been living there for a long time. You have a good idea the direction that the area is going in, on a daily, just because by you driving around, going maybe to work or going to the gym, going to the park, whatever it may be, you can see if the area is being built up. If there's a lot of construction sites, if you see apartment buildings being put up, if you see new business buildings being put up, that's a great thing. That means that your property value is going to increase. So that means you want to get in before all that stuff start happening. So when you see the construction sites and things like that, that's a good sign that the area is going to be improving, right? So that's a good way for you to increase your rent and up your cash flow. Another one is you can add other income sources for things like storage space, parking spaces. This is for if you are renting out your house, or if you have a duplex and you're renting out the other unit, or if you have a triplex or a fourplex or whatever it is that it may be. Maybe you live in an apartment building right now and you have to pay for your parking space, or maybe you have to pay certain utilities, or maybe you have a storage and you have to pay for that as well. What the owner is doing is they're trying to increase their cash flow by putting that on the tenant, right? That's another good way for you to leverage also. All these kind of tie into each other. So when you increase your cash flow, you are increasing your leverage amount for your property when you go to either refinance or things like that. Pay less for the property at closing. This is why it costs to be a good negotiator. It costs to be to get your inspection done properly, to know the area, know what's going on. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Things like that. So you can try to get some equity in your property at close. So equity means that, let's say you find a house that you can buy for $200,000 and it's actually worth $250,000. But for whatever reason, maybe you found a house that the owner was just ready to get out of it. They weren't getting many offers, and they were ready to retire or they're ready to move, and they were just ready to sell their house. So let's say they put it on the table for $240,000, but you come in at $200,000. They might shut it down at first, or maybe they just might accept it over time. And what that means is you have $50,000 in equity in that property, right? Because you bought it at $200,000 and the appraisal came in at $250,000. So that's $50,000 in equity that you have to work with when you go to like refinance, or if you want to sell your home later down the road. The more equity you have, the more leverage you have, and the better it is going to be for you when you either sell your property, refinance your property, or whatever it may be. Let's see what else we got here. Reduce other expenses. your maintenance costs, your landscape costs, your property managers. These are things that maybe you can handle, or maybe you have a family member that can handle them for you, or maybe you have a friend that's a landscaper and you guys can work something out. You can say, hey, I got this house, or I got this duplex or this triplex that I have a yard, and if we can work out a deal, I'll make sure that you get the contract, and if I every time I get another building or another property, I'll make sure I hire you. So do that even with people that you aren't friends with. Start building these relationships with plumbers, with electricians, with landscapers, with people who do roofs, people who do all these different things. And you'd be surprised just uh, going out and about. I promise you, Lowe's and Home Depot are really great resources for all these different things. You'll find all type of people in there. You just kind of have to build up your confidence to just start speaking to people, like, without just asking them directly, like, hey, can you help me with this? Because they're going to be looking at you crazy, like, who is this random person asking me for some help at their house or their property, right? So it's something you want to slowly build up over time. But there's a lot of ways for you to find all these different people. And like I said, start building these relationships, because they might find a deal for you later down the road. Or maybe you might refer them somebody, they might cut you a deal. You just never know. So have an open mind when it comes to that. Put up a larger down payment. Yeah, that will help increase your cash flow. The more cash that you put, depending on what type of financing you do, which we'll kind of get into later as well. Depending on the type of financing that you do, if you put up a larger down payment at closing, that means you're going to have more cash flow, because that means your mortgage is going to be lower, right? So the more you put down on your loan, the less that your mortgage payment is going to be, the more that your cash flow is going to be. Make sense? Allow pets. People love their pets, and if you're on the other end listening, you might have a pet, and you probably had to pay some type of fee. You probably have to pay like a monthly fee to keep your pets if you have an apartment, or if you're leasing a house, things like that. These are other ways that you can increase your cash flow. It's like, it sounds like it's bad, but when people have pets, it messes up the carpet, because you have to do the carpet when they have pets. But this is where you have that fee in there that's going to cover having to repair the carpet or any other damages that come with having pets. So if you've ever lived somewhere that you had to pay for pets, that's why they're trying to increase their cash flow, and then they don't want to have to worry about paying for the carpet and things like that. So here are some expenses that you can expect to calculate when trying to do your cash flow. So remember this stuff, because I have something at the end for you guys as well. So your vacancy rate, there's different things out there that say it's typically between 2 to 5%. And the way that you calculate this in is whatever your rents are when you have, let's say you have a duplex, and whatever your rents are, if those are full, you times that number by 2%, 3%, 4%, or 5%, and you take that number, and that's typically going to be your vacancy rate. So it varies based on where you're at. There is no set standard at what your vacancy rate is going to be. You might not have a vacancy rate, because I don't think I've had a vacant property in over probably 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years since I've had a vacancy. I have good property managers that get people in and out of my unit. So when a person lets me know, hey, I'm going to be moving out the first of next month, my property managers already have a list of people, and they work to get people in right away, right? So this comes with building those relationships and over time. And like I said, now you guys have me, so I'm going to tell you guys my tips and my tricks when it comes to dealing with property managers and stuff. But that's going to be probably a few weeks down the road before we get into that. Your property taxes. Everyone's going to have property taxes that they have to pay on their house, whether if it's a house you live in, if it's a house you rent out, if you end up getting a duplex, if you're in commercial real estate, residential real estate, it really doesn't matter, right? So let's see, if you're a vet, make sure you look into your exemptions, because there's a lot of states that if you're a veteran with a certain disability percentage, you can get your property taxes, you can get them waived, you're exempt from them. So some states it might be 50%, some states it might be you're 100% exempt of property taxes. Every state has their own rules. Every county has their own policy. So all you would have to do if you're a veteran, go to your local tax assessor office and ask them what's the deal with property taxes for vets. Or you could just do a quick Google search and that will show you as well. Your property insurance, right? You're going to need insurance, whether if it's your house that you live in or if it's a house that you rent out, or if it's a duplex, triplex, fourplex, whatever type of property you have, you're gonna need property insurance. And then property management, that's up to you if you want to have a property manager or not. If you're just looking to get a house and you're not looking to rent it out or anything like that, then you don't have to worry about that. But let's say you get a house and eventually down the road you want to rent it out. And let's say you want to move to a different state, right? The property manager is going to be the person who's going to run it for you without you having to be there, deal with the day to day. When people get locked out of their house, if their hot water isn't working, if there's any issues, they're going to contact your property manager. They're not going to contact you. So that's the good thing. That's the benefit of having a property manager, but it is an expense because they cost money and that varies. But like I said, we'll talk about property managers probably in a few weeks. Your utility expenses, your water, your electricity, your gas, your trash, your sewer. And sometimes, like for instance, I have a fourplex somewhere and there's other fourplexes in the area and we kind of share a common area. So we have to pay for the lighting outside. So not only do we pay for our individual buildings, but we also have to pay for the light and the water and sewer that's outside, right? So, and you'll know these things, you'll know exactly what you have to pay when you go to buy your property. All that's going to be transferred over when you're dealing with your real estate agent. They'll let you know exactly what type of fees that you can, that you'll be having with your property. Property maintenance, right? These are things that are going to happen, especially whether if it's your personal house or if you're renting it out. You're going to need maintenance over time. You're going to need water heaters repaired. You're going to need sinks repaired. You're going to need carpets removed and replaced. You're going to need maybe roofing issues. You're going to need all these different things. You're going to want to upgrade appliances and stuff over time. So property maintenance, that's another fee that you got to calculate. Business licenses, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're in the commercial side, you're going to need business licenses depending on what it is that you're doing and things like that. For people who are just doing, if you're just getting a house for yourself, or if you're getting like a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, you don't have to worry about a business license at all. That's more of like on the commercial side of things, not for residential. And then advertising. Advertising is going to be an expense because if you want to rent out your property, how are you going to get it out? How are people going to know that you have a vacancy, right? So a lot of times it might be on apartments.com or Zillow or whatever it is that you advertise. There's going to be fees for you to advertise. So whether it be your property manager who does it or it's you who does it, you're going to have those fees one way or another. If you want to rent out your place, if you don't ever want to rent out, like I said, if this is just your home to live in forever to pass down to your family, then obviously you don't have to worry about any advertising. And then other miscellaneous fees will come up over time, and you'll figure that out once you have, if you've ever lived in a home, that other things will come up. If you ever live in apartments, random things will come up all the time. So you always want to have money for these things, for these expenses, and this is what you can use to calculate all your expenses. All right, passive income. This is the one that everybody loves and you hear about it so much. And this is one of my favorite things too, because who doesn't want to just be sitting around and get paid from real estate? It takes time to get set up, right? Maybe you might get lucky and you might be able to find a deal right away to where you can get passive income, but don't think that, oh, just because I'm in real estate, I'm going to get passive income. That's not how it works, right? It takes time. You got to do things right, but let's dive into it. So passive income in real estate is a strategy through which an investor can create earnings without having to be actively involved, kicking back and collecting the check. That's how I like to say it. So don't be fooled. This might not happen right away. But with, I don't know what I said right there, but like I said, it might not happen right away, but if you do things correctly and you're actively involved, it can happen. And we're going to break that down. So when most people think about earning passive income in real estate, rental activity is the first thing that comes to mind, right? So there's a dozen ways to own or invest in rental properties, but in general, they fall under two main categories, which is residential and commercial. So residential is going to be your single family homes. That's just, what you live in, what you and your family, or you rent it out, or a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. So a duplex is a small apartment. It's not a small apartment. it's 2 units, right? So sometimes it might be 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and then you might have a neighbor that's next to you. They have a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and you guys each have a garage, or maybe you don't have a garage. So that's kind of what a duplex is. A triplex is just 3 different units in one building, and then a fourplex is 4 different units, like a small apartment building. So all of these are considered residential, and there's a lot of ways for you to leverage yourself into residential rental property with OPM, which is other people's money. And the same thing with commercial as well, but that's a whole nother ball game. So we're not gonna get into commercial at all, because that's just a whole nother world. And I just put it on here just so you guys can see. And if you think you want to ever get into commercial rental properties, then hit me up, and then we can talk on the sideline about commercial if you want to. But commercial real estate is office spaces, industrial spaces, multifamily rentals that are 5 units or more, and like retail, like strip malls, all that stuff. Somebody owns that stuff, right? If you go to a strip mall that has 20 buildings in it, 20 different stores, more than likely one person owns that strip mall. It might be maybe a group of investors, but everyone is paying rent to these people. Like commercial real estate is, that's what the big boys, that's where the big bucks are at. So maybe that might be a goal for you. Maybe you want to start out with a single family, and then you want to get to a duplex, and then you want to try a triplex and a fourplex, and eventually you want to work your way into commercial real estate, because that's where, you can make great money in residential as well. But commercial, we're talking about multi-million dollar properties that we're talking about. And then you get longer contracts. So I don't want to get too much into commercial, but you guys get the idea. All right, so just between these two categories, there are different type of investments. As you can see, just between these two, you got a lot of different type of investments that you can go in. And then as you can see with commercial real estate, you have many options that produce rental activity, such as single family, apartment complexes, office spaces, fourplexes, just to name a few. If you set up things right, you could be collecting income from all of these. So it doesn't matter the rental type, rental income is earned the same way, right? You get it by leasing a unit to a tenant and they pay rent. Ideally, the rental income exceeds the property expenses, creating positive cash flow, right? You can have negative cash flow, you can have positive cash flow, you could end up with a goose egg, which means zero at the end of each month, right? But I want you guys to think about it like this. So imagine you get a fourplex, right? Let's just say you want to get a fourplex and you use the FHA loan, which is a type of way for you to get a loan without having to put much money down, right? You have to put 3.5% down. And I'll give an example of what using a FHA uses. But imagine this. So imagine you get a loan, right? You put 3.5% down on this property, and let's say it costs 100,000 just for example purposes. I know it's hard to find a fourplex for 100,000, but I just kind of want you guys to understand these numbers a little bit. So if we get a loan for 100,000 for a fourplex, and we only have to come up with 3.5% for a down payment, that's only $3,500 that you have to come up with to get a $100,000 property, right? So now imagine that for this $100,000 property, let's say your mortgage, your insurance, all your expenses come out to, we'll just say $1,000 a month, right? And you have 4 buildings that you're renting for $500 a month. So you're getting 500 from one unit, 500 from one unit, 500 from one unit, 500 from another unit. And all your expenses for everything comes out to 1,000. So the first 2 units, 500 and the 500, are going to cover your $1,000, right? They're going to cover your mortgage and your insurance and all that other good stuff. And that leaves you with $1,000 passive income. Now, does it work that way? No, it doesn't necessarily always work out that way, but over time you can slowly build towards that. So now imagine, okay, you have $1,000 passive after all your bills and everything are taken care of. And let's say you want to hire a property manager, and the property manager is only $100, right? So now you have $900. That's $900 that's coming to you every single month. And that's what so many people do. This is how people are building wealth within real estate, is because they're doing these type of things. They're leveraging the bank. They're increasing their monthly rents. They're increasing the value of their property. So when they refinance, they can refinance without having to sell the property, get a cash out refinance, and take that money and go buy another property, using either 3.5% or 20%, whatever it is. So this is how you start to build your real estate empire pretty much. You know, you got to start with one, you got to start somewhere. And these are the possibilities that you have, right? All right, so let's go to this example. So the rent on the property is $1,200 a month, and the expenses are $200 a month. Your net cash flow before mortgage, that's a very important part, would be $1,000 a month, which equates to $12,000 in annual passive income. That's a lot of money, right? To just sit back and not do anything. Like that's $12,000 that comes to you for by you just doing the research, like doing stuff like this, right? You guys are sitting down, you guys are learning about real estate. And then once you guys go put all the knowledge that you get, when you guys go put it to work, that's when you start to get rewarded, right? Over time, you start getting rewarded. So this $12,000 in annual passive income is not going to do nothing but increase every year because your rents are going to keep increasing. Eventually, you're going to end up paying down your mortgage, right? You have these tenants and these other people paying your mortgage down for you. Even if you had a fourplex and let's say you had to come out of pocket $100 or $200, let's say you have a mortgage out there for $300,000. Well, that's what it costs for you to get this property. And you have people that are paying down that $300,000 for you, right? So let's say your first 5 years, you have 100% vacancy rate. And for 5 years, you had not only people covering your mortgage, but you were also making a little bit of money on the side because you had money left over after all your expenses were taken care of. This is how people are building wealth. This is how people are able to pass down their real estate from generation to generation and just keep this cycle going. Like this is what people are doing. It seems like it's easy because it is easy. You just have to go about it strategically and you have to get into the right deals. And so, like I said, that's over time, we're going to get you guys there. So I know all this is sounding very good, but understand that not every rental property is passive, right? The more involved you are on a regular basis, the less passive it is. So you can either be an active manager, which is the less passive route. So let's say you don't want to hire a property manager and things like that. That means you're going to be involved. So even though you're saving that money from not having a property manager, that means you're taking away your passive because passive means you don't do anything, right? Passive means you don't lift a finger on it. And by you being the active manager, that means you're having to take your time out of your day to do, and that's fine if that's what you want to do, and you choose to do that because you want to have your passive income as high as you can. But at the same time, you're also having to do work, right? So the whole goal of passive is for you not to do any work, but it's up to you, whatever works for you. Or you can pay a third party property management group to maintain and manage the property for you, which would be the more passive route. So I want you guys to really look at these numbers because these are realistic numbers. Oh, I didn't even finish I didn't finish my example. So if we were to use a mortgage from the example earlier, which was $750, that would mean that you're getting $250 a month, right? So your mortgage and insurance was $750, and then you're getting $1,200 a month in rent. Your expenses were $200, and then your mortgage was $750. So you know 1,200 minus 200 minus 750 leaves you with 250. That's going to you. That doesn't go to anybody else, right? That's $3,000 a year for you to sit back, collect a check. So it takes a little bit of time to get there, but you guys can get there. All right, tax advantages. So I don't want to go too much into tax advantages, but I'm trying to get you guys to understand. I'm trying to get you guys thinking. And, you know, for those of you who are kind of on the fence, if you want to get into real estate or not, I'm trying to get you guys thinking to see, and I want you guys to see what other people are doing, because this is what I'm doing. This is what my friends that are in real estate are doing. Like, this is the game, right? This is the cheat code to what people are doing. It's like a lot of us I never had anyone who was doing real estate, right? I didn't have anyone that I could reach out to, that I could ask, like, hey, what happened with this? Or how did you do that? Or how did you get into it? Or taxes? Like, I didn't have anybody to ask. So I think it's kind of dope that, you know, we have the Wealth Squad, and that I really think it's cool that you guys took a chance, and because, you know, you guys all spent money. Everyone that's in here spent money to get in this, right? So me as a teacher, I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys everything I can. I want you guys to get your money's worth. And I know it's like, you know, it's only $25 a month, but for some people that's a lot of money. So I think that's cool that you guys are taking the step, and you guys are doing this. I hope I hope you guys have some good questions for me after I'm done with. I'm just kind of getting sidetracked right now, but I hope you guys have some good questions for me because I really want. I think everybody should have real estate. I personally do because the tax advantages alone are so crazy, and what these I say these people, but I'm these people now, right? But what real estate people are doing is they're not doing anything illegal. They're finding out what the system is and they're using it to their advantage, right? You can't get mad at a person who goes and some people were handed this playbook. If you guys are like me, we're learning together, right? I had to figure it out. I literally had to figure it out as I went. It took me a whole year. I found a good real estate agent that I trusted and I like. She didn't force me to get any property and I felt really good. I had hundreds of questions. I had notepads on notepads of just different questions that I was always writing down. And I used to think that they were stupid, silly questions, but I promise you, there is no stupid, silly question, right? So get your questions, like have your questions down and figure out how to get an answer, whether if it's you guys ask me through here, or maybe you guys might have other friends that are in real estate, or maybe you might have a family member who does real estate. Just anytime you think of anything like, I wonder if I could do this, write it down in a book and then don't just skip over it. Go get the answer for it. Whether if you find it online, if you hit me up, or if you hit somebody else up, make sure you're getting the answers to everything that you have concerns about, because that's how you're going to get good at this, right? All right. So I'm done with that rant. All right. So if you become a real estate investor, you can take advantage of the numerous tax breaks and the deductions that can save money at tax time, right? Who doesn't want to save money? So in general, you can deduct the reasonable cost of owning, operating, and managing a property. So yeah, I don't want to get into that right now. So there are so many advantages I highly recommend. There are so many advantages that I highly recommend you get a CPA, because you have to think about it. They do this for a living, right? CPAs know all the different tax breaks. You need to find a CPA, tell them what your vision is, and tell them what it is that you're trying to do, and ask them, hey, all right, last year, okay, so let's say you guys don't get a property until 2022, right? So you get your first property January 1st, 2022. 2023 rolls around and it's time for you to do taxes. So what I want you guys to do, if you hire a CPA, go sit down with them and go over everything, right? My CPA, she was like, you're different. I was like, yeah, because I need to know what you're doing. I need to know, where can I improve? Where can I save more money at, right? I don't know. This is not my language. I can't tell you all these different forms, right? I don't know anything about any of this shit. Excuse my language if there's any kids listening, but I don't know anything about this shit, right? So I'm sitting down with her, and every time she's like, "You coming in here every single day?" I was going in there every single day with questions because I wanted to know. I wanted to know, how can I get a better tax break? How can I save more money, right? You need to be actively involved if you want to be good at this. You can't just think, "Oh, I'm just gonna go get a loan and I'm just gonna rent it out. I'm just gonna let them figure it out," right? I'm hitting up my property managers every month. I'm talking to them. I'm making sure that my property managers get paid before I get paid, because that type of stuff does a lot, right? When you're constantly asking people questions, when you're on it, people actually like that more than people who just sit back, right? So I don't have any issues with any of my property managers, right? They're constantly increasing my rents. They're constantly putting good people in my units. And then my CPA, she's constantly finding ways to help me, because it's like little things you do. I'll hit her up and just ask her how her day is. Little things like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, little things go a very long way. Being a good person will really will get you a very long way. And then also, it's not only about being a good person. It's like, this is your property at the end of the day, right? These are your taxes that somebody else is doing. So don't you want to see what it is that they're doing? Like, they could just be putting any number. I need to know the number that she's putting on each block. Where do you get that number from, so I can verify that number is correct? Because you don't know what it is they're doing. And then when it comes to your property managers, you want them to get you different bids. If something goes wrong with your tenants or with your properties, you want to know, like, you want to make sure they're getting you the best deal. You don't want to think that people are draining you from your money. And this is where people go wrong. They just let people handle it and they don't ever check in. They don't do anything. They just think that, oh, I have a property manager, I have a CPA, everything is going to go smooth. No, you have to be actively involved at first. And now I can just sit back. Sending an email is nothing, just checking in, right? I don't have to pop up at my properties to check to make sure they're good. I don't have to have people drive by, because I put in that work at the beginning, right? I was going to my properties every day. I was making sure trash wasn't around. I would just go to my properties and pick up trash. Sometimes people might throw trash and it might not go in the bin, right? I'm just going to clean it up. It's my property. I want it to look good, right? Those are little things that you have to start thinking about and start doing if you want to be successful at it. It's the little things and the easy things that's going to separate you from the next person. That's going to also separate you from being a good real estate investor versus a not so good real estate investor. All right. I keep getting sidetracked, but man, I get excited about this stuff. All right. Since the cost of buying and improving an investment property can be depreciated over its useful life, which is 27.5 years for residential and 39 for commercial, you benefit decades of deductions that help lower your tax income. So every year your property depreciates, right? It doesn't matter if your equity keeps going up, right? It doesn't matter if if the value of your home keeps going up, but the depreciation goes down. It's a crazy way how this works. So every single year, your property on the tax side is being depreciated. So it's like that right there alone, just you having a property, you're getting that depreciation value, even though your equity is continuing to rise, right? So your mortgage and stuff is being paid off by your tenants. Your equity continues to rise because your tenants are paying off the mortgage, and then also maybe whatever's going on around the property. But when it comes tax time, you're getting a tax break, right? This is that crazy stuff, man. You can't make this stuff up, right? Some of this stuff just sounds outlandish, but I promise you guys, this is real. Like, this is no joke. All right, so you benefit from decades of deductions that help you lower your tax income. Another tax perk that you may be able to defer capital gains is by using the 1031 exchange. All right, I want you guys to write down this 1031 exchange, because this isn't for you when you first get into real estate, but this is going to come handy for you eventually when you guys start building your portfolio. And I'm going to touch on it a little bit because I'm thinking. And so when I went back and created all this stuff, I was thinking of, before I started, I wish these were some of the things that I would have knew, because I didn't know about the 1031 exchange until after I got my fourth property, I believe. Because no one's not going to tell you these things. You got to be doing the research. Maybe someone might tell you. Maybe a real estate agent might say, "Hey, did you know about the 1031?" Maybe. But for me, unfortunately, don't get me wrong, my real estate agent was great, but it was just a thing that she didn't talk to me about, because once we got our first property together, I kind of ran off on my own. So I should have stayed with her. She probably would have helped me out, but I'm the type of person, you can help me hold my hand for a little bit, but after a while, set me free and let me go do my own thing. I want to figure out my ups and downs along the way. So that's what I did with the 1031 exchange. I found that out down the road. So I'll kind of explain that a little bit more on the next slide. Let's finish this one out. So according to the IRS, you can depreciate a rental property if it meets all of these requirements. You own the property, so you're considered to be the owner, even the property is subject to a debt, right? So let's say you get a mortgage from a bank or a lender or whoever, but that property is yours, even though the bank really owns it, but it's really yours. So you're the owner. You can put that in when you do your taxes. Let's see. You use your property for a business or as an income producing activity. The property has a detriment, what? Whatever, you guys know what I'm saying. Useful life, meaning it's something that wears out, decays, gets used up, becomes obsolete, or loses value from its natural causes, right? So over time, your property is technically depreciated, like
Turn it off.
depreciating.
I'm trying to hear this.
The property is expected to last for more than 1 year, right? Let's go to the next one.
Go get your clothes for bathing.
Whoever just came in, can you please mute on your side? All right, so when it comes to real estate, a 1031 is a swap of one investment property for another that allows capital gain taxes to be deferred. This is like the ultimate cheat code, and I could have saved myself a lot of money if I would have knew about this. So here's an example. This is just one of many examples. I don't want to touch on the 1031 too much, but I want you guys to have this in your notes. So when you guys get your first property and you guys are looking for your second property, this is something that you guys can look back on, right? So let's say you sell a property for $600,000 and you had a $400,000 mortgage on it, right? So let's say you bought it at whatever price, you got the mortgage all the way down to $400,000. Now its current value is $600,000, right? So you sell it for $600,000, but you still had a $400,000 mortgage on it at the time of the sale. and you choose to keep your debt level the same, but you want to buy a property for 800,000. So this is what you do. So you add that 200,000 out of your own pocket and buy the new property with the $400,000 in cash, right? You guys with me? You buy it with the 400,000 in cash, and then you take the $400,000 mortgage. This satisfies both requirements of a 1031 exchange, and you can defer all the taxes, right? So if you weren't to do this 1031 exchange, let's just say you went from one to another, you would have all those taxes that you would have to pay. So keep that down. Here's the checklist. Whoever you guys' real estate agent is, you can talk further with them about this. But when you buy your first property, you're not going to have to worry about this. So like I said, this is going to be more when you go to look to get your second property. So I'm not going to read through all these, but as you guys can see, here's the checklist that you guys can go through. Pretty simple. And for this stuff, you guys aren't even going to be doing anything. It's going to be more on when you do it at closing and stuff like that. It's going to be more on your real estate agent and then the qualified intermediary who does this for you. So they do all this. You're just going to be signing. It's just going to be, you're just going to reap the benefits, but other people are going to have to do all the paperwork for you, which is pretty cool. And that's, speaking of that, that's pretty much how real estate goes, right? Once you find the property and you run all your numbers and do everything, your real estate agent and everyone else is going to handle all your paperwork. All you're going to be doing is a whole bunch of signing. And then once it's all done, then you're just going to be collecting the money after that. All right, let's hop into leverage. We're almost done, you guys. I tried not to make this too long, and I'm trying not to go on these little side rants. I know you guys got stuff to do, so let's go ahead and power through this so you guys can ask me your questions. All right, so a way to leverage real estate is to use debt borrowed capital to fund a real estate investment, right? Leveraging your real estate allows you to make money in real estate using OPM, other people's money. This technique can multiply your buying power in the housing market. You can purchase a much larger income property and increase your return on investment compared to if you had paid all cash up front. Some people want to go the all cash route, but maybe not everyone has 500,000 laying around. So maybe you might have to leverage at first, and then 5-10 years down the road, you might have the money to pay all cash if you want to, or you just want to keep leverage in the bank. So we're not going to get into which is better, but we're just talking about this leverage right now. So you can, let's see where I'll leave off. So if let's see, the less cash you invest, the higher your leverage and return on investment. This comes from rental income and property appreciation, right? The two things I was talking about earlier. You only use a small percentage of your own funds to purchase an investment property, and the majority is provided by your lender, the best part. So I put a couple of examples down here. We're going to kind of talk about them just a little bit. So the most common way to leverage money in real estate is through a mortgage. So in case of a mortgage, paying a down payment of only 20%. So imagine kind of like the example I was telling you guys earlier about using the 3.5%. If the property was 100,000, you only had to come up with 3.5%. That means you only come up with $3,500 at close, right? Those are your that's your down payment costs. So a conventional loan requires you to do 20%. And the lender will fund the other 80%, right? Giving you 100% of the home. So let's say, we're just using this for example purposes. So if you want to go the conventional route, and I'll kind of explain what's the difference a little bit. So the conventional means you would have to put 20% down. So if the property is 100,000, you would have to put $20,000 down, right? That's going conventional. And then if you wanted to do the FHA, which I'll talk about next, you would only have to come up with 3.5%. So the difference between FHA and conventional is that FHA has much more, they're much more strict on the type of properties that you can get. They want them to be livable. They have to be livable, right? They have to be, there can't be any construction that needs to be done. There are certain FHA loans that will allow you to do that, but the typical FHA loan, it has to be ready for you to move in right away. They have much stricter rules, and they also require what's called a PMI, which is it's like a property mortgage insurance. So for them to give you the money, and this money doesn't go towards your mortgage. It doesn't go in a fund where you get this money back. It's a small percentage of the numbers. It's not like it's a lot depending on how much your home is, but it's money that you have to pay every month for the FHA giving you this loan, right? So you only have to come up with 3.5%. But also, since they're giving you this loan, they're also going to charge you a little percent, which is the PMI, for them giving you that loan. So that's kind of the caveat to using the FHA. So FHA, it's more strict for the type of properties that you can get into, and you also have to pay a PMI every month. And then when you go conventional, you have to pay 20%, but there is no PMI. You can get any property you want. It could be run down, And then if you're a veteran, you can get into real estate with 0% down using your VA home loan. So look into that. So imagine, to touch on VA real quick, if you guys have any family members that are in the military or any friends that are in the military, tell them to look into using their VA loan. There's so many vets out there who do not utilize their VA loan, and they can literally get into a fourplex with 0% down. I'm a person who did that, right? So it's an easy way for them to start their real estate journey. You can get a fourplex, rent out 3 units, live in one side, have two of them cover the mortgage, and you're collecting rent from another one, and you're living rent free. And then you could leverage that as well. You can refinance, and you can use the VA loan again. It's crazy. Any veteran out there, if you're not using a VA, I promise you're leaving money on the table. And if you're a veteran and you're thinking about using the VA, hit me up. I'll help you out on the side. All right. Over time, you can increase your net worth substantially. No joke. Seriously. Like with all this stuff, between leveraging, between taxes, between passive income, this is like, I hope you guys are following me with this stuff. Like, this is really this is the key into building wealth. This is why they always say, get into real estate, get into real estate. These are the reasons why. And let's see, a conventional real estate purchase requires 20% down payment. Most cases, there are conventional ways where you can do a lower down payment, but for the most part, it's 20%. So that's $100,000 on a $500,000 property that you would have to put at the down payment. By putting only 20% down and borrowing the rest, the buyer essentially uses a relatively small percentage of their own funds to make the purchase, and the majority of the loan, the other 80%, is provided by the lender. So that's why real estate investments often refer to the remaining 8% of the purchase price as OPM, other people's money. So when you always hear people say, oh, I'm in real estate using OPM, this is what they're talking about. They're just leveraging different lenders, and you can keep leveraging over and over and over again, right? You get a property, you build up some equity, you refinance, you get that money, you leverage that money using OPM to get into your next property. You build up some equity in that house, in that property, or whatever it is, a duplex, a triplex, a single family home. You build up equity in that one 2-3 years, and then you refinance that. You take that money to get into another property, right? It's a domino effect. So if a person uses the FHA, which has more restrictions and costs, like I was telling you guys about, that means that they will only need 3.5%, and the lender will provide 96.5% of the loan. So that's $17,000 on a $500,000 property. So imagine that. Imagine if all you need to do is come up with 17. It's going to be a little bit more, right? That's just 3.5% of the down payment. It's going to be a little bit more. I say use more of like a 5 to 6% rule, because you're going to have, if you don't roll your closing costs into your loan, you're going to have closing costs. You're going to have like appraisal, inspection. So I would say use the 5% rule, but 3.5% is what FHA is what you'll need for the down payment. So you'll have other little costs as well. So use 5 to 6%, and that's typically what you'll have to spend. So imagine having to only pay $20,000 to get a $500,000 property. And then, so not only imagine that, so you pay that $17,000, and now imagine you're renting it out, and it takes you 2 years to recuperate your $17,000 that you initially put in. And then now every year after that, that's cash coming to you. So you recuperated your $17,000 that you put in, and you have passive income coming in because you took the right steps to get everything right. And now all that money is just coming to you, right? And you just got that $500,000 loan pretty much almost for free. And let's see, where are we in? So yep, with no fees, but with more fees and rules. So it's still good leverage if you ask me. All right. So in closing, we covered cash flow, which is the difference between a property's income and expenses, including debts. Passive income, a strategy through which an investor can create earnings without having to be actively involved. Tax advantages, we're talking about deducting costs, depreciation, 1031, start looking to get a CPA. And leverage allows you to make money in real estate while using other people's money. So I have a little homework assignment for you guys. I think you guys should really try this out. And if you guys do this homework assignment, hit me up, let me know how it goes, because I want to see what it is that you guys are seeing and what you guys are finding. So figure out how much home you can afford, right? This is the first step. So remember how I said we're going to start from the very basics and we're going to keep like, now next week when I cover real estate, we're going to go more into depth into things. We're just kind of getting to the beginning of it. So figure out how much home you can afford. Well, people say, well, how can I do that? So I don't want to tell you guys a specific percentage because everybody's money is set up differently. They have all these different rules on what you should be spending on like your rent and things like that. But we're not going to go into percentages and how you should budget. That's going to be on you. So I have a website down here from NerdWallet. They have a calculator where you can put in, you can slide it down to whatever it is you think you can afford, right? So whatever your rent is now, maybe you have an apartment or maybe you're renting a home, maybe use that number and maybe add a little bit more so you can, get a little more. You can play with it and see how much home you can afford. So after you figure out how much home you can afford, find 3 properties in your area that are around this price, right? And you can do that on Zillow. A lot of people hate on Zillow and they talk, a lot of real estate people don't really care for Zillow, but Zillow's cool. Like I said, if you're just starting getting in, it's a good place to start because they have a lot of great tools and they, you can connect with real estate agents, you can connect with lenders. A lot of their numbers are not very far off. So they're not 100% accurate, but it's not very far off either. And then calculate what the cash flow might be. So go back up where I was talking about your different expenses and things like that. So you guys figured out how much home you could afford. You found 3 properties. Now, what do you think your cash flow might be on that? So try to see if you can figure that out. And then how would you leverage 20% or 3.5%? So I want you guys to do this and shoot me your guys' information when you guys do this. And then I'll try to answer as many of you as I can. I probably won't be able to get to everybody, but I'm gonna try to get, I want to help at least 20 of you guys out, right? So I'm gonna be pretty busy with that. So I hope some of you do this so I can help you guys out. So here's the 2 websites. The Nerd Wallet is, you can just copy and paste that and you can see how much home you can afford, and then Zillow.com so you can start researching. And then let's do some Q&A. So here are my social medias, NoTimeZone on Instagram, and then NoTimeZone_ on Twitter. Here's a link from my Gumroad links. I have a FHA course getting ready to come out, which goes more in depth in using the FHA process. I have a traveler's guide course. I have a flipping guide course. And then all you guys get 30% off. If you guys want to do it, just use discount code Wealth Squad. All right. So let's get to these questions. What you guys got for me? Who's up? Bring this back over.
Yes. What do you do wholesaling?
You said what?
Hey, do you do wholesaling?
No, I don't really mess with wholesaling. So there's a lot of strategies in real estate. Wholesaling is one, BRRRR is another one. I don't really mess with wholesaling or BRRRR too much. It's just not really my expertise.
Okay.
Hi, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm actually watching in from Canada. I'm tuning in from Canada. I just want to ask, given the prices of real estate here in Canada, the steps you just described, do you think they'll be applicable to,
Honestly, I honestly don't even know. There are some guys that I know. Send me a message. There's a few real estate guys that I connect with in Canada, but we haven't really talked about what process they do. They're just people that I know, and I know they're in real estate up there, but I've never asked them what the processes are up there. So shoot me a message, please, on either Instagram or Twitter, and then I'll try to connect you with those guys that I know that are up there, and maybe they can help you out more.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have a question.
Hey.
I'm also in Canada, and I have almost a similar question as hers. My one question is regarding to the refinancing you're talking about. How do you do that? Because I have my own house here that I'm staying in, and I'm thinking of maybe getting another rental property, but I don't know how that refinancing aspect works here in Canada.
So that's a good question. So I don't know how the refinancing works in Canada, but how it works here in the United States is there's a certain process that you have to go through. So you have to get your home reappraised. And when you get your home reappraised, so let's say when you purchase your home, the value was $200,000 and now it's $250,000 and you want to take some of that money out. most banks are gonna, when you get that new appraisal of what your property is worth, they're gonna give you a percentage of what it's worth. So they're not gonna give you the whole 250,000. Every bank is different. Some banks will give you 75% of the value. Some banks will give you 80. Some banks will give you 85, just depending on who you go through. And then the property, you keep the property, right? So they give you, you can either cash out or they can either give you a cash out, or you can take the exact amount that you need and just take it and roll it in. So I don't know how it works in Canada, so I don't want to give you any wrong information.
All right. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a two-part question for you, actually.
Go ahead.
The first question is, with our current market right now, as far as the COVID Act goes, are you going to break down or explain, like, the COVID Act, and if it's really even a good time to invest in an actual rental property with that going on?
Right.
And the other question is, throughout these Zoom meetings that you're going to continue to have over the next few weeks, are you going to actually break down how 203K loans work, or do you have any information on those?
So I do have information on those. So shoot me a message on the for that one, and for the COVID. So it's I've been talking with real estate agents in probably 10 or 15 different states. I've been dealing with guys that are in commercial as well. There was a big hit at first. So a lot of people have seen a big hit and a lot of pushback, but now that everything is starting to open up more, if you're looking to dive into real estate, this is going to be the time. And I say that because you have to think about this. We're not going to stay shut down forever, right? Eventually we're going to have to open up, fully open back up, and people are going to start going back to work more, and things are going to be open more. So when people start going back to work more and things start getting back more to normal, that means real estate is going to increase again, right? So you want to get in now when everything is, when you still have these deals on the table, because a lot of people are panicking. They don't know. A lot of people don't know what's going to happen. So a lot of people, you can get $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in equity right away, which is, I mean, it's not that that's unheard of, but before all COVID happened, most of the time sellers were going to sell what the value was. So you weren't able to get these type of deals. So this is the time to take advantage of the deals that are going on right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question.
Hey.
Hi. So it's about refinancing, but more specifically, if I purchased an investment property and within a few months want to refinance it because I fixed it up, I have a tenant already in there. Do you suggest using the same bank that I did the initial loan with, or should I go to another bank?
You can, if you can, and I would say start with them first just to see what type of rate they're going to give you for the refinance, right? And then once you get that rate, then you can maybe start shopping around and see if you can get a better rate from somewhere else.
Okay. In terms of documents, that's really what I was thinking of. Like in terms of documents, do you think they hold on to that? Will it be like a smooth process?
That's not going to matter.
Okay.
Because when you refinance, it's a complete different process. So it has nothing to do. They're not going to take like your numbers from when you first got the loan with them. It's like it's a whole new process. You're going to have to go through the appraisal again, and you're going to have, there are closing costs again that you have, and things like that. So it's like a whole new process. So it really doesn't matter if you stay with your bank or if you go with somebody else.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How about, hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey.
Hi. Have you ever heard of NACA?
Ever heard of what?
NACA, NACA.
No, what's that?
It's like for low-income people. They actually help you with the closing costs. That they pay the lawyer fee.
Oh yeah, so FHA has something that's similar to that, where they have different programs. So every state, every city, every county is different. There's different programs to help low-income people get into homes using the FHA method. I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but they have something that's very similar. They have different programs out there. Well, they have a lot of programs for FHA, especially for lower income people. They're really trying to push lower income people to get into homes. I know it's hard for people that have low income to do it, but they have a lot of programs to help you with the initial down payment. And then they also have programs, let's say if your job gets cut or if your pay gets cut, they have these programs that help you out. So you guys got to really like dig into this stuff, because they're not going to tell you about these programs because, that's just money sitting there, right? So they're not gonna reach out to people and tell you guys about these different programs. You gotta kind of have, you gotta dig, you gotta start kind of asking some questions and looking around.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anybody else?
Man, I'm sorry. I actually have one more question.
What's up, man?
When you're first getting into it, is there a way to get into this industry with no money down? Or not necessarily no money down, but without actually living in the property. Say, for instance, getting a duplex and living in one and renting out the other. Is there a way to get a duplex and just rent both units out all together without you actually living in one?
All right, so that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that question. So there's so if it depends on what you use, right? So if you use the FHA, which means that you have to put 3.5% down, that means that you would have to live in one unit and you could rent out the other units, right? So if you have a duplex, like he asked, that means you have 2 units. That means if you use the FHA, you have to live in one for a year. That's in the rules for using the FHA, and the VA also has that rule as well. It has to be considered your primary residence for at least a year, and then you can move out of it, and then you could eventually either refinance or do whatever. The only way that you can rent out both units without you living in one is you would have to go the conventional loan route, which means you would have to put 20% down or buy the property fully outright. Does that answer your question?
Oh man, thank you, man. I've been trying to figure that out for years, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. That was a really good question, actually.
What do you think about using that process that you said and then refinancing?
Which process?
The getting an FHA loan, then refinancing into conventional instead of outright starting with the conventional. Starting with the FHA.
No, that's a good question. It just depends on what you have going on and what you're trying to do, right? Everybody's vision is going to be different. What people are trying to do is different, because not a lot of times when people refinance, they're not even refinancing to get into more properties. People are refinancing to do kitchen upgrades, to do backyard projects, or maybe they might just be struggling and they had good equity. So it just depends on what you need the money for and what your vision is and what you're going to do. And then, like I said, when you're rolling into another loan, what are those loan terms? Are you going to have to, so even though it's keeping you, it's starting your loan over again in essence, but you're being charged less. Is that going to be beneficial to what it is that you're trying to do? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just more so referring to him like starting with the FHA and not having to worry about not living in it at all. He could just refinance, use the FHA, refinance into a conventional so that he doesn't have to.
But when you use the FHA, there's they have certain rules how long you have to be in before you can roll it into a conventional. But then again, when you roll it into a conventional, you got to have that money for the conventional as well.
Right, the closing costs.
Right, exactly. So that's
it's only a year. It doesn't have to be more than a year before you can rent it out.
But there are ways out of it, right? But there are ways to get out of that year. Let's say your job is moving. Let's say you might be in the military, you're getting stationed at a new base, or let's say your job is transferring you somewhere, or you have a family emergency, with your parents maybe, and you have to move to a different state. So there are rules in place for you to get out of it, right? I don't want to tell anyone to do something, but there are ways to get out of that, not having to live in it for a year. But just make sure you're abiding by the guidelines and the rules that they have for that. I don't want anyone doing anything illegal, because if they find out, let's say you use the FHA, and let's just say you just want to rent it out yourself, right? Because once you have it in your name, they don't know what you're doing. They don't know if you rent it out or not. But let's say you do rent it out in 6 months, and let's say they do have investigators who go out and they do check, and let's say they happen to check and they find out that you're renting out that unit that you're supposed to be living in. They can cancel the FHA and put the exact, whatever the remaining balance is at that time, and they can transfer it over onto you at that exact moment. So don't even play with that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying that they are going to investigate you. I know people who've gotten away with it, but I don't want anyone to do anything illegal to get in trouble, because that's a lot of money to just be dumped on you at once that you're on the hook for.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm married. I got an FHA loan. But when I went to sign the deed to the home, they put my husband's name on there. Would he still qualify to get a FHA loan on his own?
So when you at closing, so you're talking about when you guys were signing all the papers and stuff, or when you guys did the loan? Whose
The
name?
loan was in my
Whose
name.
name is the loan in?
The loan is in my name, but
Then that's good. That's all that matters.
okay. So then
Yep.
he can still go ahead and get his own.
Yep. It
Okay.
only matters when you guys get the loan. It only matters whose name is on that loan. So if you guys are married or if you're in a long lasting relationship, you guys, this is how you guys help each other out. You guys get that FHA loan together, right? You guys stay in it for a year, or even if you guys don't stay in that one for a year, let's say the other person, so one of you uses the FHA for one duplex or a fourplex, and then while you guys are fixing that one up and renting out whatever, the other person gets out another FHA loan and you guys get another fourplex. So now you guys have 8 units. You guys have 8 units and you guys leverage 96.5% of that to get in. You guys got 4 units that you're renting out that's bringing in income. And then after that year is up, you guys can move, you guys can leave and rent them all out. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, I got a question real quick.
Go ahead.
You can go ahead, bro.
I appreciate it, bro. Hey, well, so this is kind of a personal question for me, but not like that, but
yeah.
I got a credit score right now. When he checked it, it was like 790. You know what I'm saying? I've been building my credit up and everything. Me and my wife now got at least 18,000 right now to put into, you know, certain avenues right now. So I'm thinking, you know, what's best for me? Of course, I know looking for a house right now that get a, you know, a higher appraisal rate than what it's selling for. I know that I'm thinking that to me is the best bet, and just paying, you know, an extra payment every quarter, so like every 3 months, whatever, building it up and probably selling it. You know what I'm saying? Or I was thinking like maybe just go all out with it, investing, because that's how I got most of the money, like just last year investing. You know what I'm saying? Pay my taxes, go all out investing, and just go that way and just like save money. Cause right now we're roommating, you know, with my mom and my sister, and I'm only paying, you know, stupid low in rent.
Which is really smart, bro. And honestly, if the situation that you guys have going on is good, like living with them right now, I would say stay there for a little longer, right? Keep stacking your money up, keep making these good investments, and start looking for properties, right? Start getting on the hunt. I would recommend you guys start out with a fourplex, right? A lot of these blogs and a lot of these posts that you see, they always say stay away. They always say start with a single family, but think of it like this: a fourplex is 4 doors bringing you in rent versus 1 door, right? So they say if you have 1 door, that means you have less of a headache. But if you have a property manager who's dealing with that headache, that means you don't have to deal with it. And so that means by having 4 doors, that means you have 4 streams of income coming in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But only thing I have is like, I'm in like, you know, the Dallas area, and like duplexes out here is so like, you know what I'm saying? They really on the expensive side, you know what I'm saying?
So you guys need to start doing your research for another area, because you can invest in real estate without living in the area, right? So let's say you have weekends off. So let's say Atlanta is a great area, right? You can find a good duplex in Atlanta for very cheap, but maybe you guys don't want to live in Atlanta. That's fine. So you and your girl find 20 properties, right, in the Atlanta area that
right there. Listen, I said wife, she listening.
Oh, your wife. I'm sorry. You know, she your girl. Hey, that's your wife. She your girl.
I'm so sorry.
That's your wife. She your girl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had to say.
Yeah. So go ahead. No, that's good. So check this out. So this is what I want you guys to do, right? It doesn't have to be the Atlanta area. I'm just using this as an example. So you guys look in the Atlanta area, right? So you know how much money you guys have right now. So with the calculation and the calculator that I put, you guys can see how much house you can afford, right? So you guys start finding these properties in Atlanta, and then if you guys have the weekends off, you know, take a flight out there and get a hotel and get a rental car and spend all day. Huh?
So I got my aunt is out there. So
okay, so whatever it is, and then you go look at these properties, right? And then so eventually you guys, it might not be the Atlanta area, it might be somewhere else, or maybe you guys might end up finding a good something good in the Dallas area. So just keep looking. So you don't have to look in. This is where this is a lot of places where people go wrong. They think that if they want to invest in real estate, they have to invest in the area they live in. That's completely wrong. You don't have to invest in the area you live in. I have investments that are in multiple states and I'm not there because I have property managers in each state handling the day-to-day for me.
I appreciate that, man. That really, yeah, that really opened me up. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but no, man, keep if like I said, if you guys are situation there, don't be in a rush to jump out to get anything. If the situation is good where you guys are living out right now and you're able to keep stacking up, keep doing that, right? Keep making your money from investments. But then so it's like you're taking that step now to start doing this real estate stuff. So you know, you start now. So it's like every day just learn a little something different. Every day just learn a little. It doesn't have to be a lot. Maybe take 10, 20 minutes and just learn a little more about real estate. And that way, this time next year, you guys will have been there and saving up the money that you saved for an entire year. So when the year comes, that 17,000 will probably be 40, 50,000. You see what I'm saying? So now you even have more, leverage when you guys want to get your property.
Man, I appreciate that.
No problem. Anybody
Hey,
else got
so I got one question.
Go ahead.
So we're looking into like probably within the next year to get into we either want to do like a fourplex or a single family home. But what I want to ask you is like, so my wife is prior military as well.
Okay.
What kind of things do you need to, I guess, get ready for in order to start that process? What does that look like for someone
does she qualify for a VA loan?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the first step is you want to make sure that she qualifies for the VA loan. So you contact the VA and you get a letter that says that she was honorably discharged and she qualifies for the VA home loan. And then you guys are going to get with a real estate agent and you're going to tell them, hey, we're looking for this type of property in this price range. And then you guys start doing research on your own as well. And you guys start going out looking for properties. And then when you find the property that you want, you put in an offer for it. And then once they accept that offer, and then you're going to have like a time period for you to get an inspection of that property, right? So then you're going to hire someone to get the inspection for you. And then after the inspection comes through, if there's any issues, then you guys can renegotiate the price due to what you guys find in the inspection. And then once you guys come up with another price, then the bank is going to send for the appraisal. Then the appraisal is going to happen. And so if the appraisal comes back and it's lower than what they agreed to sell it to you for, the VA won't allow that to happen. The VA will only allow the property to be sold for either what the appraisal comes at or lower. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so once the appraisal happens and then you guys renegotiate again, and then once you guys agree, then you guys fill out all the paperwork, and then that's that. That's really how it goes.
Oh, there you good. Okay, so as far as I guess money forward, I know with the VA loan they usually do the 0% down. Is there anything like on that side that we should prepare for, like, or
so you guys are gonna have to pay for the inspection. So inspections typically will cost you about anywhere from $200 to $500, just depending on how big the property is. So you guys are gonna have to pay the inspection. Right. If she wasn't 100% disability, then you guys are gonna have like some VA closing fees. So you guys, I would say, have about anywhere from probably like $2,000 to $3,000. You guys can be in a property for about $2,000 to $3,000, maybe less than that. But that's all in, like your all in cost for you guys to get a property. You'll be looking at about $2,000 or $3,000. You won't be looking at not much more than that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, that voice sounds familiar too.
Yeah.
Sound like my old barber.
That's exactly who this is.
Oh man, we're gonna have to chop it up.
Hey, definitely. Man? I got a few questions for you, so I'm gonna have to hit you up.
Do you still got my number?
Hit you up on Instagram.
You still got my number?
I think so. I'm gonna shoot you a text and we'll see.
All right, bro. That's crazy.
Appreciate it.
No problem. All right, who's next? Let's see, we still got 58 people in here. All right, so if you guys have any questions, just ask along the way. I'm gonna leave it open for now. So let's go. I'm gonna show you guys. All right, let's go to the how much home can I afford calculator. Let me see. Let me make sure this ain't in the way. I don't know if you guys can see this or what. Put this over here. All right, so this is that exact link that I had. Let's see. So you can see in here, it will show you can slide it up and down based on how much you think you can afford each month, and it will tell you. I put Houston as an example. So I have somebody in here from Dallas that asked some questions. So we're gonna use Dallas as an example. So let's say if you're in the Dallas area, and let's say you can afford to spend 1667 a month, right? So it's breaking it down. These aren't exact numbers, but for that area, it's going to be pretty close, right? Your property taxes might be a little different, and based on who your home insurance goes through and your loan. So this number might not be exactly correct. It might be $100 more, or it might be $100 less, but it's going to be very close to this. So this is part of the homework that I want you guys to do. So go in here, figure out how much home you can afford. So let's say your all-in costs, or not all in because you're going to have other costs, but for your main part, so for your mortgage payment, your property taxes, your insurance, maybe there might be HOAs, which is the homeowner association fee, which sucks. I hate HOAs, but you can calculate those things in here as well. So you can see, so if a person could afford 1667, on here it says you can afford about a $306,000 home. Right? So you can play with this based on where you're at. You can, go up and go down and play with the numbers. So this is what I want you guys to do to figure out how much home can you actually afford, and be realistic with these numbers. Don't try to put too much. You can go lower, but be realistic. And then when you go in here, and then you can go to Zillow, and we're going to stick with Dallas. We're going to go Dallas, and then we're going to do, so what was our number? So we said 2.8, or no, I put it down some more. We're going to go, we'll say $300,000. So let's say we want to go up to bed and bath. We want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and a plus. So it could be more or less. And then for home type, you have all these different categories that you can look at, but we're going to take all these different home types out of here. We're going to take that one off. We're going to take apartments off. If you're looking for the duplexes, the triplexes, and the fourplexes, that's considered a multifamily. So you would leave that one checked if you guys were looking for, we'll just leave it checked just to see what they got. Manufactured, condo. So I like to just look at houses and multifamily personally. And then our price, so we're going to go 300,000 is going to be our max. So we'll go 300,000. Boom. And it's going to filter it out for us. So now if we want to get deeper into like what part of Dallas we want to be in, we can zoom in. They have this little boundary tool right here where you can like circle a certain area and it will only go in that area, right? So we have a good amount. We got 50, we got a good amount of listings. How many do we have in here? It shows you, and then you can go in here as well where you can filter it down if you want to have any HOAs, how many square feet, if you want to have a garage, if you want to have a basement, what year it was built, if you want to have a pool, like all those different things, right? You can really get in here and play with these different tools and search engines that they have, so you can really filter it out. But as you guys can see, you got some good options and room for you to play with in Dallas for what I put in. I just put in a random number, 1667. That's a good amount. That's what you kind of expect. But you can see, these aren't no rundown homes. These are some good homes that you could either start to live in for yourself, or you can start to slowly invest in it. So let's take out the houses and let's see if we got any multifamilies in here, any duplexes or anything. I want to click on one of these. So here we go right here. And the cool thing about Zillow is that you can reach out to real estate agents. You can get a lot of good information off of Zillow. And I'm going to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about, what get information on here. So, all right, so here's a property. You can look at the pictures. It doesn't really need too much maintenance from what we're seeing just from these pictures, but sometimes it's always different when you go in. So a 6-plex, yeah, I doubt this is a 6-plex. This does not look like 6 units unless I'm tripping. Let's see. So if this really is a 6-plex, you wouldn't be able to use this with the FHA or the VA, because remember how I told you guys with the FHA and the VA, you can only get 1 to 4 units. So if this is a true 6-plex, like it says, you wouldn't be able to use that OPM like I was talking about. You would have to go the conventional route or just buy it outright. So I guess we're learning. So I'm teaching you guys as we go. As you can see on here, they got all the different information. It's a multi-family, what year it was built. And this is good to have when you're calling around trying to get loan quotes. So this is something when you guys call around to search for banks and stuff to use, do not give them guys your social security number. Tell them, hey, I'm looking to invest in real estate. I'm thinking about using you guys to get my loan through. What are you guys' rates today? They're gonna try to say all these different things, but I promise you they would give you that information without you giving them your social security. You don't have to give them anything. You don't have to give them your email. You don't have to give them your real name. You don't have to give them your phone number. They're gonna give you what their rates are. So you guys need to call around. And I'm gonna talk about this later on when I do my next class, but we're getting really ahead of a lot of stuff, but it's fine. Like I said, we're still gonna go and start up where we finish off. But when you're calling around to figure out what these rates are at these different banks, because every little percentage matters. We're talking about $300,000 here. So 1% or 2%, we're talking about a lot of money that you can save by just calling around, getting different quotes on what banks' rates are. So they're gonna ask you like some of these questions, the same like when you call to get insurance, you can get all the information. The insurance is gonna ask you, what type of building is it? What year was it built? How many square feet, right? You have all that information for you right here. So you guys can see they got a lot of different information, but we're gonna scroll down because I want you guys to see, good, no HOA, that's great, perfect. I want you guys to see some other information. So you can kind of see the value for the area and the value of this home, and you can kind of see it compares to the Dallas area. So you can kind of see where this home versus the whole area kind of goes at, and then you can go down, you can see what the taxes are. You can see when the home was sold last, how much it was sold for. As you can see, property taxes are a little high for Dallas. It shot up pretty much double. It doubled from 2018 to 2019. And then you can kind of see, you can get an estimate on what your monthly costs are going to be. Like I said, it's not completely accurate on Zillow, but it's not very far off, right? It's very, very close. And then it even shows you if you scroll down, if you go like 20%, and you can put in whatever interest rate. So when you call these banks and you get what the interest rate is, you can take this out and put in whatever the bank tells you. And then you can put in, like, if you're going to put 3.5% down, then it's going to recalculate everything. It's going to see that monthly cost jumped up because you put less down. So you guys can see right here, live time, the difference between putting 3.5%, which was 10,500, versus putting 20% versus 60,000, but it also took your monthly cost down. So remember how I was talking about in the slides earlier, the more you put down, the less your mortgage is going to be. This is exactly what I was talking about. Property taxes a month, and that's really high out there in Texas. And then it also kind of gives you what the rent is for that area, right? So let's see, based on what your monthly cost would be if you were to put 20% down versus what you could rent it out for. You see the discrepancy right there? It's like a $200 difference that you would have to cover. But then over time, so you wouldn't be able to profit, you wouldn't be able to have positive cash flow with this right away, but you have people paying down your mortgage. You only have to come out of pocket $200. So that might only last for maybe you throw a fresh painted coat on there. Maybe you throw in some carpet. Maybe the owner now pays utilities. Maybe you put the utilities onto the tenants. So that's just going to increase your cash flow, and that's not going to matter over time. And then you can also see the school, like what areas is what the schools are looking like in this area, right? So the middle school isn't that great. The learning center, whatever that is a little bit better, but it's a okay area, I guess. So and then they have different agents that you can connect with. And then you can also see what other properties are going for in that area. And then you can see the nearby homes, what they're going for. So there's a lot of great information. You can contact the agents. So please do not put your information in here, because all they do is they're just going to connect you to they're going to send your stuff out to a whole bunch of people. So if they, most of the time they'll have like an agent's name and you could just Google them, but you could just Google an agent in your area and say, hey, I found this property on Zillow. You give them the address and tell your agent, can you get all the information for me? Do not put your information here because you're gonna have 100 different people calling you. They're gonna be sending you emails. So I mean, you can if you want to, but beware that they're just gonna send your information to a whole bunch of real estate agents. They're gonna be texting you and calling you all the time. So I just kind of helped you guys go through the homework. But I want you guys to do it for your area, for your price range. And then, like I said, send them to me when you guys get them so we can kind of go over them. I'll try to get as many as I can. Anybody got any questions?
I have one last question.
Sure.
Okay, so I currently own a home with my sister, and she's like the primary, and I guess I'm the secondary or co-signer.
Okay.
And so what I want to know is, because we are talking about, getting another property, but what I want to know is when it comes to like different programs, like the first time home buyers program, would I be eligible for that since I'm just a secondary or co-signer? Because I was trying to think of a way to get around the whole conventional.
If you're just a co-signer, you're good to go. You'll be able to, you'll qualify for any loan because you're just a co-signer. So they were just using your credit pretty much.
Okay. Cool.
So yep, as long as your name isn't on the loan and you're just the co-signer, you're fine.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Oh, I have a question.
Hey, go ahead.
I wanted to see sorry, I know you have to go. I wanted to see, I live in a house now. I wanted to see if I can leverage that because I can rent it out, especially in my area, like everybody rents out their houses. If I can leverage that income into the new loan.
Yeah. So when you rent out a property, they take whatever your rent is for the other property, they calculate that as income for you.
Okay, yeah, because this house isn't in my name, so I will obviously have to transfer it into my name because it's under my boyfriend's name and I don't want him on the loan.
Yeah, you can
he's a mess.
Yeah, you can get it put into your name. And then when you rent it out, and then when you go to get another property and when they go over your financial part, you can tell them, I have this property, I have income coming in from this property, and then they're gonna just want to see what the rents are and things like that. And you can use that as leverage as well.
Okay, but obviously, yeah, I would have to rent it out first before.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
You would have to rent it out before. Because you can't say, because what they're going to want to see proof that you have a tenant. Yeah. They're going to want to see the contract. So they're going to want to know that, because you could just say, oh, I got somebody renting it. And then you could put anything on paper. They're going to want to see like a contract with that person's name. They're going to want to see how much rent is coming in for it. And they're also going to see if you guys have like a mortgage or anything on it. They're going to want to see that as well. It's called debt. Yeah.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I did that too. And they asked for first month's rent, a copy of that, as well as the security deposit. And I was still living in the property when I did it. So they just need a signed lease with the expected date.
If they sign the lease, then you don't have to worry about them being in it right away. So let's say it's January 15th and you plan on moving out February 1st and you're still in it, but you already have a tenant that signed the lease for February 1st, you could just use that documentation as you're good for that.
Oh, okay. And obviously I would just need like the first month and then the security deposit.
You won't need any money. You just need the lease. As long as they sign the lease, you can use that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, you guys, any other questions before we close this thing out? Going once, going twice. All right, man. I hope you guys got some good information from this. Like I said, I'm trying to start from the beginning so I can get you guys to where you guys need to be. So there were some really good questions in here, and we kind of got ahead, but if you don't know what we were talking about with the people that are asking questions, don't be afraid or don't be worried, because I'm going to make sure I cover everything for you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be here every week. I'm going to be giving a different class. I'm going to start where I left off, and from start to finish, we're going to be good. So if you guys,
I got a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was looking at your Gumroad. Is your profile the one with the traveler's guide on it?
Yeah.
All right, I just want to double check. Thank you.
No problem. Cool. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a good day. I hope you guys got some good information from this. If you guys do the homework, I hope you guys do. Like I said, shoot me a message.
Hey, quick question, bro.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, how does compound interest play a big role in that?
A big role in what?
And basically real estate.
What do you mean with the compound interest?
Like, how does that help you down the run?
I don't know if do you mean with equity? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the value, so let's say you get your home for 200,000, and let's say next year it's worth 300,000, right? So you have $100,000 in equity. So that's going to help you when you go to refinance. That's what that's going to help.
But
you.
how would you go about it if because I'm Muslim, you know, and that's compound interest. That's against my religion. So like, how would you go about it if obviously
compound interest is against your religion?
Yeah, Muslim.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Like I said, if you're talking about like equity, compound interest is more of like something different. I don't know if that's. I'm trying to make sure I answer your question right. I don't know if I'm trying to get the word.
No. I'm gonna get some more info on it, and then I'm gonna hopefully DM you or something, and then.
Okay, yeah, DM me. But the equity part helps when you go to like refinance, or even if you go to sell, right? So let's say you bought your house at 200,000, and now it's valued at 300,000. If you don't want to refinance, if you just want to sell that house and not rent it out and do nothing with it, then you just, however long, let's say you've been in there for a year, so you paid down the mortgage for a year, right? So you took it you took it down from 200,000 to now it's probably at about 197,000, right? Because of interest and all these other things. So you took it down to 197,000. Now it's worth 300,000. So when you go to sell it, you're gonna get like 103,000. 103,000 is gonna come to you. And then based on if you use FHA, let's say you use the FHA loan, so you pay down that FHA loan. So that means now you can use another FHA loan because you paid off the remaining balance of the first FHA loan, and now you have 103,000 because you have that equity in your house. So now you have 103,000 to leverage versus when you first started. So you would go 103,000, divide that number by 3.5%.
Okay.
So that means you could leverage, well, it would be a little, it's not going to be, so you can leverage up to 2 mil, right? But it's not going to be that much because it's going to be based off of what your income is and things like that. But you have a lot more wiggle room to leverage that first property because you have 100,000 in cash. So now you can really get into a bigger property, or you can get a fourplex or different things like that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So question for you.
No
do you ever worry about over leveraging yourself?
That's a very good question, and I was going to get into that next week.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So this can happen a lot. So this is why over leveraging is when you bite off more than you can chew, right? This is people trying to get into too many properties, or they think that they can afford this. This is why you need to run your numbers. This is why it's very important to have your numbers down, so you don't over leverage, because a lot of people they just try to build their real estate portfolio really fast, and they leverage one property to the next to a next. But what they're not taking into consideration is every time you start to leverage, if you're not having tenants in one property or two properties, and with COVID, a lot of people weren't paying rent. So some people had 10 properties where they weren't getting rents on, but they still owed the bank, right? So you're still going to have to pay those, even though you're leveraging and you're getting into, you have a nice real estate portfolio. You don't want to over leverage yourself because you're still on the hook if you don't own those properties outright. Did that answer your question?
Right. So I'm currently in a property right now. I have two tenants. And it's covering the mortgage.
Right.
I have probably about close to 20% equity. But I'm thinking about getting into another property.
Okay.
What's your recommendation? Like when you're thinking about another property, What's your thought process for that?
It's the same exact thing. I start from square one. I don't that first property, you need to make sure that if for whatever reason those tenants aren't in there, that you're able to cover the mortgage for that, right? So you need to set your finances to make sure, all right, if let's say one tenant isn't there, and because you said both tenants cover the mortgage together, right?
Yeah. So just make sure,
do you have anything left over after the mortgage is covered?
To pay for, there's
No.
the hidden cost.
So after you collect your rents from your tenants and you pay your mortgage, do you have any money left over? Or does it cover it to the dollar?
It covers to the dollar pretty much.
Okay, to the dollar. So what you need to do for yourself is, let's say one of those tenants was out of there. So that means now you have to be on the hook for half of the mortgage because the other tenant is paying the other half, right? But if something happens to where both of them is out, you need to make sure that you have the funding to cover the whole mortgage if for whatever reason you don't have any tenants in there. And then whatever money you have left over, so after you put that money to the side to cover the mortgage for that first property, whatever money you have left over, that's the money that you have to leverage for your next property. Does that make sense?
Right.
So that way you're not over leveraging yourself. You're not biting off more than you can chew.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
No problem.
Where can we follow you at? Like, what's your
You
IG?
can follow me on IG. It's NoTimeZone. So it's NoTimeZone, but with 2 O's in the no.
Perfect. Cool, man. Thanks.
Cool. Good question.
Where that name came from, man?
So NoTimeZone came from, I'm a traveler, right? So when I first got on social media a couple of years ago,
Yeah, I know you be everywhere, man.
Yeah, I was only on Twitter for a while, and I just got on there just talking about traveling because that's my main passion. I love real estate, don't get me wrong, because it covers a lot of my traveling. But so the NoTimeZone came because I'm never in the same time zone. I'm always on the move. I'm always on the go. Before COVID happened, I was taking international trips at least once a month. But I'm always, even now, I'm still traveling throughout the United States. So if any of you guys are travelers, use that to your advantage. When you go to a new state, drive around, look and see how the properties and stuff are looking out there. I do that all the time. I'll go somewhere, I'll get a rental car, and I'll just drive around just to see if I see any deals. I might see something that might catch my eye. Like, you guys got to start training yourself to start get into that investor mindset. So even though I'm on vacation, I'm kicking back, I'm chilling, I'm having fun, I'm still going out handling business kind of in the same essence, because that's how I end up getting properties in multiple states, because I went to a state and then I just asking people questions like, oh, what does rent go for out here? And then people are like, oh, $600-700. Then I look and see what properties are going for, and they're going for $60,000, $100,000. They're renting for $600, $700, $800. I'm like, this is crazy. So I'm like, let me dig a little bit deeper. And then that's how I end up getting properties in these other cities I don't live in, where it's like, you never know what type of hidden gems you're gonna find in different states or different cities. Even if you live in a big state, just travel around. You never know what you're gonna find in other areas. You don't have to invest where you live at, or you don't even have to invest in your city.
Do you ever post that information on your social media, like when you're out and about in these other states,
No,
like
not
places
really.
that are,
Sometimes I might post like a little airport picture or something, and just depending on what I'm doing. I wanted to try to start doing like a little vlog type of thing, but it required too much of my time. Like I said, when I do be on vacation, I'll be trying to enjoy it. So driving around looking at properties is cool. It doesn't take up too much of my time. It probably takes like maybe an hour, 2 hours of my time, and 2 hours of my time end up paying me still to this day, because driving around, I found properties that put money in my pocket. It allows me to go travel. It allows me to invest in more properties.
I have a question. If you have properties in different states, right, how do you go about looking for a good property management company?
It's all about, so that's something else that we're going to cover probably on week 5 or 6 of doing this. I'm going to dive deep into property managers, but you have to think at it like this. So the property manager in essence works for you, right? But you don't want to have that attitude like, oh, you work for me. It's a business relationship. They're handling, you know, you're not paying them much for them to handle your property. So it's like you want to kind of go above and beyond for them. And like, you don't necessarily have to do that to find a good property manager. It's what I like to do, and it's worked out for me, right? I trust my property managers. I have like a 20 to 30 page or 20 to 30 questionnaire that I ask each property manager, you know, so it's a whole process, but we'll get into that into like week 5 or week 6 on how to find a good property manager.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Anybody else? All right, cool. All right, you guys. So I'm out of here. If you guys have any questions, like I said, hit me up on my social media. And when you guys do the homework, shoot me your guys' what you guys come up with.
Thanks, man.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. You guys are
Appreciate it.
welcome. Yep. Thanks for tuning
Appreciate
in.
you.
Yep. Appreciate you guys.
Great.